My husband was secretly sending $3,000 a month to his ex. For 4 years I thought we were broke. My name is Laura. I am 42 years old. I live in Houston, Texas, and 3 years ago I discovered that the financial stress that had defined the last 4 years of my marriage, the vacations we had not taken, the home renovations we had postponed, the retirement contributions we had reduced, the constant low-level anxiety about money that had become the background noise of our lives, had not been real. The money had been there. My husband had simply been sending $3,000 of it every single month to his ex-girlfriend. For 4 years. I need to tell you about the money anxiety first because it was so woven into our daily life that I need you to understand what it felt like to live inside it before I tell you what it turned out to mean. My husband's name is David. We had been married for 9 years when I found out. He was a project manager at a construction firm, good salary, stable employment. I worked as a marketing director for a healthcare company, also a good salary. Together we earned comfortably, not wealthy, but the kind of household income that should have allowed for reasonable comfort and steady savings. It did not feel that way. From about year 3 of our marriage, money had always felt tighter than it should have. David managed our finances. This had been a mutual arrangement that had made sense at the time because he was better with numbers and I was busier with a demanding job, and he gave me regular updates that painted a picture of a household that was doing okay, but not great. Unexpected expenses. Market fluctuations affecting our investments. The cost of living creeping up. He was never alarming about it, never made me feel panicked, just consistently painted a picture of moderate financial constraint. Accepted that picture completely because I had no reason not to and because David was trustworthy. He was, in every other observable way, a good husband. Present, reliable, kind in the specific ways that matter in a long marriage. I had no complaints about him as a partner. The money was just a source of background stress that I had learned to live with. I found out on a Tuesday evening when David's laptop was open on the kitchen counter, and a bank notification appeared on the screen while I was walking past. The notification was from an account I had never seen, not our joint account, not the savings account I knew about, but a third account whose name I did not recognize. The notification showed an outgoing transfer of $3,000. I should have looked away. I did not look away. I looked at the screen for long enough to see the recipient's name. Her name was Jessica. David had dated Jessica before me. I had known this in the general way that you know about a partner's past, as a fact without emotional weight, because it had seemed irrelevant for 9 years. I stood in my kitchen for a moment. Then I sat down at the counter and I opened the laptop and I looked at the account. The account had been opened 5 years ago. 1 year before the financial tightening had begun. It had a balance of approximately $8,000, consistent with a few months of reduced transfers, as though the rhythm had been briefly interrupted and was rebuilding. The transaction history showed $3,000 transfers to Jessica's account with the regularity of a utility payment. Every month. For 4 years. 48 transfers. $144,000. I want to give you the exact number because I think it matters. $144,000. Over 4 years. While I was managing a tighter budget and worrying about our retirement savings and declining to book the trip to Portugal we had talked about for 3 years because the timing never felt right financially, I closed the laptop. I made dinner. I ate dinner with my husband. I told him about my day and he told me about his, and I performed a normal evening with a completeness that surprised me in retrospect, because I am not someone who had ever thought of herself as capable of that kind of performance. Then I called my sister and told her everything, and she told me to call an attorney before I said a single word to David. And I called an attorney the next morning. My attorney's name was Christine, and she was exactly what I needed. Direct, strategic, and completely unsurprised by anything I told her because she had heard versions of this story before. She advised me to spend 2 weeks documenting everything before confronting David. She connected me with a financial forensics accountant named Robert who spent those 2 weeks going through our complete financial history. Robert's findings were comprehensive. The $144,000 in direct transfers was the most obvious element, but not the only one. There were other redirections. Smaller amounts, less regular, harder to characterize but consistent with a pattern of money moving out of our shared financial picture, and toward destinations that served David rather than us. Robert estimated the total amount redirected over 4 years at approximately $180,000 when everything was accounted for. $180,000. I confronted David on a Saturday morning. I put Robert's report on the table. I put the bank account printout next to it. I sat down across from my husband, and I told him I knew about Jessica and I knew about the account, and I knew about the 4 years. David went through several phases in about 90 seconds. Denial, brief, abandoned almost immediately. Minimization. He started to say it was not as much as it looked, stopped when I put the specific number in front of him. Then something that collapsed into what I can only describe as exhausted admission. He sat back in his chair, and he looked at the ceiling for a long moment. Then he told me about Jessica. Jessica had a child. The child was 7 years old. The child was David's. I want to pause here because this is the moment the story changes from a financial betrayal story into something larger and more complicated. David had a 7-year-old child I had not known about. Jessica had become pregnant before David and I were married. During the period when they were still together, in the final months of their relationship before it ended, Jessica had decided to raise the child. David had agreed to support them financially and had agreed to Jessica's request that he not be actively present in the child's life. She had wanted to raise the child independently, and David, who was by then building a relationship with me, had agreed to the financial arrangement and the distance. He had agreed to this before we got married. He had maintained it throughout our marriage. He had never told me. I sat with all of this for a very long time. The financial piece was one thing, significant, deeply violating, the kind of thing that restructures your understanding of 4 years of your life. But the child was different. There was a 7-year-old human being in Houston whose existence I had not known about, and whose presence in the world was now a fact I had to incorporate into my understanding of my marriage and my husband. Christine advised me that in Texas the financial misdirection was actionable in divorce proceedings. She also advised me that the child's existence and the support arrangement, while conducted deceptively, represented a genuine obligation that a court would likely recognize. Filed for divorce 6 weeks after that Saturday morning. The proceedings took 8 months. The financial settlement reflected the $180,000 that had been redirected. It was factored into the division of our marital assets in a way that Christine described as appropriate, and that I experienced as partial justice. The house was sold. I received a settlement that Robert said accurately reflected what I was owed. David's support arrangement with Jessica and their child continued. This was not something I contested because contesting it would have meant contesting the welfare of a 7-year-old who had not chosen any of this. I have not met the child. I have no desire to at this time. This may change. It also may not. David moved into an apartment. He and Jessica are not together. She did not want that, and neither did he, apparently. He is navigating fatherhood belatedly and from a distance, and that is his situation to manage. Update 6 months later. I am in a new apartment that I chose entirely myself. It is smaller than the house and exactly right. I have a balcony where I drink coffee every morning, and there is something about that simple daily act, coffee, balcony, mine, that has become important to me in a way that is hard to explain. I went to Portugal. I went alone for 10 days in September. I ate good food and walked many miles and sat in outdoor cafes and thought about nothing required and everything optional. On the last evening I was there, I sat outside with a glass of wine, and I thought about the trip we had talked about for 3 years and had never taken because the timing never felt right, and I felt something that was not quite peace but was moving in that direction. My therapist says reclaiming things is part of recovery. I think Portugal was reclaiming something. David texted me once, 2 months after the divorce finalized. He said he was sorry in more words than that, but sorry was the substance of it. I read it twice and then I put my phone down and went back to whatever I had been doing. I did not respond and I do not plan to. So Reddit, was I wrong to file for divorce without attempting couples therapy first? Because David asked for it. Because some of my friends said the child changed the calculation, and that therapy might have been worth trying. But he had a 7-year-old I did not know about, and had been sending $3,000 a month for 4 years while I worried about our retirement savings. I want to know where you think the line was. I found out my wife had a second credit card for 6 years. Then I traced where every dollar went. My name is Robert. I am 44 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado, and 2 years ago I discovered that my wife of 11 years had been maintaining a credit card I had no knowledge of for 6 years, and had accumulated $87,000 in charges on it that she had been servicing with money redirected from our household accounts in amounts small enough to avoid triggering my attention. I am an accountant. I say this because it is relevant. I am a professional who spends his working life examining financial records, and I did not notice for 6 years. I think about this regularly. I have not yet arrived at a version of it that is not humbling. My wife's name is Michelle. We had met when we were both 30, married at 33 after a reasonable courtship that had seemed to reveal her clearly. She was a graphic designer, creative, warm, organized in the way that creative people sometimes surprisingly are. We had a joint financial life that I managed, and that she participated in with what I believed was full transparency. We had joint accounts, shared credit cards that we both knew about, a mortgage, a retirement plan we contributed to together. I reviewed our finances monthly. I knew our numbers well. What I did not know was that Michelle had opened a credit card in her name alone 6 years into our marriage, and had been using it for spending she had not wanted me to see. I found out because of a phone call from a collections representative. The card had been allowed to lapse. Michelle had missed 3 payments in a row for the first time in the card's history, and the collections call came to our home number because it was listed as a secondary contact. I answered. The representative asked for Michelle. I said she was not available and asked if I could help. The representative mentioned the account. I said I was not familiar with it. There was a brief professional pause, and then the representative said the outstanding balance was $87,000, and asked if Michelle had a preferred contact number. I thanked the representative, and said I would have Michelle call back. Then I sat in my home office for approximately 40 minutes processing what had just happened. I pulled our credit monitoring service we had subscribed to 1 year ago for identity protection, and ran a full report on both of our names. Michelle's individual report showed the card, 6 years of history, a credit line that had been raised multiple times as she maintained minimum payments, and a current balance that had grown to its present size because the minimum payments had been keeping it alive rather than reducing it. I traced 6 years of our household accounts before I said anything to Michelle. This took me 4 evenings. I was looking for where the money for the minimum payments had been coming from, and I found it. Small amounts, irregular intervals, drawn from our household discretionary budget in ways that I had attributed to normal spending variation over the years. The total amount redirected from our household accounts to service this card over 6 years was approximately $31,000. The card balance itself represented $87,000 in charges she had made. I categorized every charge on the card. This is where the story becomes more complicated, because what I found was not what I expected. I expected to find evidence of an affair, shopping for another person, hotel charges, restaurant bills that told a story. What I found instead was a portrait of a life my wife had been living alongside our shared one, that was not about another person, but about herself. There were charges at a pottery studio where she had been taking classes for 4 years. I had not known she was interested in pottery. There were charges at a bookshop I recognized as being near her office. There were charges at a therapist's office that were not our couple's therapist but an individual therapist she had been seeing for 3 years. I had not known she was in individual therapy. There were charges at a yoga studio. There were charges at a restaurant near her office that I recognized as the kind of place you go for a quiet lunch alone. There were charges for a weekend trip to Santa Fe 2 years ago, when she had told me she was visiting a college friend. There was no other person in the charges. There was just Michelle, a version of Michelle who had built a parallel private life not with someone else but with herself. I did not confront her immediately. I spent a week sitting with what I had found because the confrontation I had prepared for, the affair confrontation, the betrayal in the direction I had expected, was not the confrontation I needed to have, and I did not yet know what the right confrontation looked like. I finally asked her to sit down with me on a Sunday evening. I put the credit report on the table. I put my categorized summary of the charges next to it. I told her what the collections representative had told me and what I had found afterward. Michelle looked at the papers for a long time. Then she looked at me. Then she said something I had not expected. She said, "I was going to tell you." I asked when. She said she did not know. I asked why she had not told me for 6 years. And then she said something that took me several weeks to fully understand. She said she had needed something that was hers. That our financial life, which I managed and which was organized around my systems and my review and my monthly check-ins, had felt like something she lived inside rather than something she participated in as an equal. That she had wanted her own money and her own choices, and had not known how to ask for that within the structure of our marriage, so she had created it outside the structure instead. That she was in therapy working on why she had done it this way rather than simply talking to me, and that she had not yet fully arrived at an answer. She was crying before she finished. Not the crying of someone caught, but the crying of someone who had been carrying something for 6 years, and had finally put it down. I sat with her words for a long time. I am still sitting with them. I have not divorced Michelle. We are in couples therapy, intensive, twice weekly, with a therapist who has pushed both of us harder than I expected to be pushed. What has emerged in that therapy is a picture of our marriage that I did not have before. A picture in which my management of our finances, which I had understood as a contribution and a responsibility, had functioned for Michelle as a form of control that she had experienced as suffocating even though I had never intended it that way. I had not intended it that way. I am also responsible for it. Both of those things are true, and I am working on holding both of them at the same time. The $87,000 is a practical problem we are addressing practically. Restructuring, payment plans, a financial advisor who is helping us build a system that actually belongs to both of us. The pottery studio charges are the ones I think about most. Wife has been making things with clay for 4 years and I did not know and she did not tell me, and that silence between us is the thing we are actually trying to fix. Update: 5 months later. Michelle showed me her pottery 2 months ago. She had been keeping it at the studio. Pieces she had made over 4 years, accumulated there because she had nowhere to bring them that felt right. She brought 3 pieces home, and put them on the shelf in our living room. They are good. She is genuinely talented in a way that surprised me and should not have, because Michelle has always been creative and I had known that, and had somehow not extended it to imagining what she might make with her hands if she had space to find out. We are still in therapy. We are building what our financial advisor calls a partnership model. Both of us with visibility, both of us with individual discretionary accounts that are ours alone, both of us with a voice in the shared decisions. It is slower than my system was. It is better. I look at the pottery on the shelf every morning. I am still working on what I feel about 6 years of not knowing it existed. I think I will be working on that for a while. So Reddit. Was I wrong to stay? Was I wrong to look at $87,000 in secret debt and a 6-year deception, and decide that what it revealed about our marriage was worth trying to fix rather than leave? Because some people say I should have left the moment I saw the number. But the number was not the whole story, and I have spent 11 years with someone who makes things with her hands that she never showed me, and I want to understand that before I walk away from it. Tell me what you think. My father left his mistress $500,000 in a secret will. My mother found out at the funeral when the mistress showed up with an attorney. My name is Catherine. I am 46 years old. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and 2 years ago my father died, and his funeral became the setting for a scene that I have replayed in my mind so many times that it has begun to feel like something that happened to someone else in a film I watched once. Except that it happened to me and my mother and my family in a church in Nashville on a Wednesday afternoon in October. My father's name was William. He was 73 years old, and he had been a successful commercial real estate developer for 40 years. He was a large presence, physically large, energetically large, the kind of man who walked into rooms and immediately became the center of them. He had been married to my mother for 48 years. They had 3 children, me, my brother Thomas, and my sister Anne. He had 6 grandchildren who adored him. He had built a life that looked, from every observable angle, like the life of a man who had done things right. The woman's name was Patricia. She was 58, 15 years younger than my father, and she arrived at his funeral with an attorney named Gerald and a document that Gerald presented to my mother's attorney, who was not present at the funeral but was contacted within the hour. as a valid codicil to my father's will directing $500,000 from his estate to Patricia. My mother's name is Eleanor. She is 71 years old, and she is the strongest person I have ever known, and she was standing at her husband's funeral when Gerald approached her and introduced himself and told her there was a matter he needed to make her aware of. I was standing next to her. I watched my mother's face as Gerald explained what he was there to say. I have watched that face for 46 years, and I have never seen it do what it did in that moment. A kind of stillness that was not calm but was the thing that comes before a person decides how they are going to survive something. She thanked Gerald. She told him to send the documentation to her attorney. Then she turned back to the receiving line, and she received condolences for the next 2 hours with a grace that I still cannot fully account for. Patricia had been in my father's life for 11 years. I know this now. I did not know it at the funeral. The 11 years came out over the following weeks as our attorney and a private investigator we retained built a picture of what my father's life had contained outside of what we had known. Patricia was a former client who had become something more, and had remained something more for over a decade. She had an apartment in a different part of Nashville. She had a life with my father that had been carefully maintained in a compartment entirely separate from ours. The $500,000 codicil had been added to my father's will 14 months before his death. The codicil was legal, properly executed, witnessed, documented. My father had been of sound mind. He had made a deliberate choice to provide for Patricia, and had made it in a way that would only be revealed after his death. I spent the first 2 weeks after the funeral managing the practical things because someone had to. The estate, my mother's immediate needs, my siblings' shock and grief. Thomas was furious in the specific consuming way that Thomas has always responded to things that feel unjust, and went quiet in the way she goes quiet when she is processing something that is too large for immediate words. I managed because management has always been my function in this family. Then I spent a week being furious on my own time. My mother's attorney reviewed the codicil and told us our options. Challenging it was possible but difficult. The documentation was clean and my father's capacity was not in question. The more productive angle was examining whether the overall estate had been properly structured given the existence of what was effectively a long-term financial obligation to a third party that my mother had not known about. The estate was large enough that $500,000, while significant, was not the entirety of what was at stake. My mother was well provided for by the main body of the will. What the codicil represented was not financial devastation but a revelation. A $500,000 document that told a story about 48 years of marriage that my mother had not known she was inside. We did not contest the codicil. My mother made that decision herself after a week of consideration and consultation with her attorney. She said she had been married to William for 48 years, and she had known him better than anyone, and she believed he had loved her. And she also believed he had done something she would never fully understand, and that fighting a legal document was not going to give her the understanding she was looking for. I respected that decision. I did not entirely agree with it, but it was hers to make. What my mother did instead was request a meeting with Patricia. I accompanied my mother to that meeting. We sat in a neutral location, a conference room in her attorney's office, and Patricia came with Gerald, and the four of us sat around a table, and my mother looked at the woman who had known my father for 11 years and said, "I want to understand what you were to him." Patricia was composed. She had clearly prepared herself. She told my mother that she had not set out to be what she became to my father, that it had developed slowly, and that by the time she understood what it was she was too involved to know how to end it. She said she had never wanted to hurt anyone. She said my father had told her he loved my mother, and had never said otherwise, and that she had made her peace with being what she was in his life. My mother listened to everything. Then she said he was a good man in the ways that I knew him. I have to believe that the ways I did not know him do not undo the ways I did. Then she stood up and thanked Patricia and Gerald for their time, and we left. The car. My mother was quiet for a long time. Then she said 48 years is not nothing even when it contains things you did not know about. I said I thought that was right. She said your father loved us. I am going to hold on to that. I said I thought that was right too. Update, 5 months later. Thomas found out 3 months ago that Patricia had used a portion of the $500,000 to establish a small foundation in my father's name, a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. When Thomas told me, I did not know what to feel about it, and I still do not. It is a complicated thing to have your father's name on something that was funded by money that represented his secret life. My mother knows about the foundation. She has not commented on it publicly. Privately, she told me she thought my father would have liked it, and then she changed the subject. My mother is doing better than I feared she would. She has her garden, her friends, her grandchildren. She has Ann and Thomas and me. She is rebuilding a relationship with her own history that now contains information she did not have before, and she is doing it with the particular resilience of someone who has decided that surviving is the most honest available response. Had lunch with her last week. We talked about the grandchildren, about Thomas's new job, about Anne's youngest starting school. We did not talk about my father's funeral or Patricia or the codicil. At the end of lunch, my mother held my hand across the table and said, "We are going to be okay, Catherine." I told her I believed her. I meant it. So read it. Was my mother wrong to not contest the codicil? Was she wrong to meet Patricia? Because Thomas still thinks she should have fought, and that meeting Patricia gave her something she was not owed. But my mother knew what she needed and she went and got it, and I think that was exactly the right thing. Tell me what you think.